All right, everyone, it is December the 27th.
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas! We got up in Christmas again.
Yep.
How does that feel?
Jolly.
Yeah, that was a terrible answer. But for all of you who are here and you are still here, thank you for engaging this experiment of engaging the Christmas season, so that you are blessed by it. It's that whole I'm going to hold on to it, and so it's the biblical concept that
Until it's
God came
time to.
down and Jacob and him, fought and they wrestled, and he held on, to God, and God said, "Let me go," and Jacob said, "No."
So he did knock his hip out of socket?
Not until you bless me.
Yeah.
And God blew his hip out of socket, and he said, "I will call you Israel." And I think there's something about this Christmas experience that kind of feels kind of like I want us to hold on to Christmas.
Yeah.
Until it's I am blessed by it. And how it's built, the church calendar builds Epiphany, because Epiphany is the great blessing of the Christmas season. So thank you for showing up here on December 27th and being a part of this. So
I feel like it's you got the dinner party.
I love dinner.
So good.
But then most of the people leave, but then there's just the few people that stay and have the best conversation ever.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it.
I love that.
All right. Yeah, I could definitely see that. And just the gift it is. Again, there are some people who showed up on December 26th and they had a conversation about Jesus. Mm-hmm. But to show up on December 27th and to say, I want to talk about the birth of Jesus
again.
And it's just what a gift.
Yeah. It's 1 a.m. after the dinner party, and we're still here talking.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. So it's December 27th. Who is going to open us up as far as our topic goes?
I can take a crack at it.
Let's do it.
Okay. So kind of the progression that we're feeling ourselves in. You have Christmas Day. And maybe I shouldn't have taken a crack at this.
Christmas Day is the celebration of the birth of Jesus, and he is here. And our podcast had been this idea of God is with us, right? He's here. He showed up.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, but then, all right, here's where my train
December
of thought
26th.
begins.
Yeah,
is on
December
26th. We talked about Mary and Joseph, and it was no surprise to them when Jesus was born, because you're pregnant for 9 months, and
pregnant people prepare.
Yeah.
Most of the
terrifying.
time,
There's a terrifying thing that happens,
especially when you have angels showing up as this magnificent pregnancy test. And
positive.
There's 2 lines. You're blessed.
Let me see that.
Yeah,
I need another.
So for them, it was they were gearing up for this. But on Christmas Day and some of the days after, there were these different pockets of people where they had no idea this was coming. But unlike the majority of the rest of the world, they found out about it.
Right.
And they were surprised.
Yeah, it's really good. So our biblical people of today are going to be the shepherds on the hills of Bethlehem, as being people who had been just beautifully surprised by the birth of Jesus.
What a surprise.
Yeah, and I think the first thing that I think about is the shepherds got to experience a host of angels singing. Okay, and I don't want hyperbole here, and to build the it was like going to the best concert ever. Yeah. But if you think about it, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A host of angels. They are built for this and possibly for this time. And they got to experience a host of angels proclaiming the birth of God on earth. I think there is something just spectacular about that, and that the angels spoke their vocabulary. I think there's something in that. Like, angels talked in human tongue and sang in human tongue, and they're singing in Hebrew to Jewish shepherds in the hills of Bethlehem.
Exactly. Like, so it's not like they got surprised when they went to the place that maybe everybody else would have said they should have gone to, right? Because there was this kind of expectation, like, all right, well, when the Messiah comes, he's probably going to be born in a palace or a royal line or something like that. But obviously that didn't happen. They didn't, the angels didn't call the shepherds to come to the temple and to worship and then show up there. The angels literally went to the fields, and being a shepherd in that day, like, that wasn't a glamorous job. That was like the equivalent of maybe being like a trash man today, right? Like, it just wasn't this very highly sought after job, at least in that culture, because of some of the stuff with Rome. But that's exactly where God sent them to go meet them and to surprise them with joy. And there's something, I don't know, like there's something really beautiful about that.
Yep.
That it's this normal thing, and yet God showed up in that place.
Or even the fact that they had to. That the angels had to say something. That there had to be, like, if that didn't happen,
The rocks would cry out.
or the shepherds aren't going to ever hear about it.
Yeah.
The intentionality, or I don't know. I think there's something cool about it. I also think that, and I'm kind of hoping to unpack this a bit because I don't have all the pieces that go together. The shepherds on the hills of Bethlehem, and over the summer, our church did a sermon series on King David and talked about the origins of David, and whenever the prophet came to find the upcoming king following Saul, and David's brothers, they had all been compiled to see if the Lord was going to call one of them the expected. But then the person who actually had been anointed had been a shepherd boy in the hills of Bethlehem that had been called out from the hill, and then it was like, this is him. A tie to this is that Jesus is in the line of that shepherd boy who had been plucked from the hills of Bethlehem, and he was born in Bethlehem. Is there something here? Is there any value here at all? Because it's talked about all the time, like, oh, the shepherds aren't anybody. The shepherds are, But is there something more here? Because in the biblical concepts of Hebrew origin, shepherds become kings.
Yes, there's got to be something there.
I know. I'm just like,
So in our last podcast, you stayed on the surface, which now you've like
We're going
totally
deep.
dived.
it's December 27th.
Yeah, we're past surface level. No, like there totally is something there. I mean, when you think about symbol, like I'm thinking about when we did the series on Elijah, and you were talking about the water, and you've got Elisha and Elijah and John the Baptist, and then Jesus. Well, there was something happening there in that place, in that space, with the water, with the whole history of how that had been used. And you did a really great job with that sermon, by the way. If any of you guys didn't hear it, like, go listen to it. It's beautiful. But that same kind of symbolism, like, that is totally happening here, right? Because for the longest time, you look at the shepherds, quote unquote shepherds, right? At least in kind of a metaphor, they were the ones that God had really called to lead the people of Israel, right? So you talk about the kings, right? David was a shepherd of the people of Israel. And so now you've got the angels showing up to let the shepherds know the king has come. And so it's and again, shepherds might not have been a part of the kingly line. We don't know any of that kind of stuff. We know that Joseph was, but the symbolism for me is there have been this group of people who have been caring for Israel, who have been leading Israel, all in the hope and the anticipation that one day the true shepherd was going to come, that one day the king was going to return, right? And then now we've got the angels singing and saying that day has come.
Yep.
He's here.
That's good. I also think, I think that's good. I think there's a surfacey thing too of just the simple fact that they are probably surprised. And I asked from a practical standpoint, especially if December 26th is all about like embodied in, I anticipated this and I prepared for this and this is going to change everything. December 27th could be embodied by the act of surprise. What are the things that I'm going to be surprised by in this upcoming season? The things I'm going to be surprised by engaging the truth of Jesus. How does surprise play a part, especially for those of us who have celebrated Christmas since the day of our birth? Is surprise continuing to be a part of our Christmas experience? Because from a biblical journey, it seems to play an important part.
And to look backwards and reflect on surprise too. Like in the same way that we're looking back, it's like, what are all the reasons why it didn't make sense for the angels to show up and say what they said to the people that they said it to?
Yeah.
I think it could be interesting to see what comes about if we process what doesn't make sense about the ways God has shown up in my life.
What?
Why am I the illogical choice for the things that have happened or the things that I'm doing? Or what are the ways that like Jesus showed up unexpectedly? And
So give us an example of that. Take a crack at it, Stetson.
For me, are you sure you want me to? I think for me, it probably veers around the sphere of gratitude, of just not in this like self-deprecating way, but from a place of like, why me? Like, why? Like, I am so incredibly lucky to be aware of this stuff. And I don't know, there's something really valuable to me in embracing the lack of logic and strategy of the gospel. And I think the lack of logic and strategy is the logic and strategy of the gospel in many ways. But that's what makes it beautiful. Like day one, it was announced to a small group of people and people veering towards the lowest level of social class.
Yep.
But I also think there's something to that of like, I wonder if they were primed to receive that news the best.
Yeah.
I mean, like you take Herod, for example. He hears about it.
It would have been a problem.
I gotta kill him.
And like his first instinction is like, oh no, this is going to take something away from me.
Yeah.
But it's the people who had nothing that were able to like receive it fully for what it was.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where kind of like the lack of logic of the gospel like comes in a little bit.
I was talking to someone the other day and he was saying kind of the same thing. Like, you know, because I'm a sinner, I don't understand how he could care for me or love me. And I think there's something in our brains that can't grasp the things of God simply because the entire biblical journey is he doesn't ever engage perfect people. He doesn't ever come down and say, "Who's the best?" Right?
I want to be with you.
It just doesn't happen. It's like throughout the whole human journey, it's almost like the qualifications are, you're not the best. That's the thing. And so I think the surprise is in the fact that the angels say, "Surprise, he's born." But I don't think I could ever be surprised that the shepherds were the first to know. Because it seems consistent in the character of God that I say, of course they were the first to know. It's like they are at the head of the table in the kingdom of heaven. There's something, of course they were the first. And I think on December the 27th, if you bring in the parable of the great banqueting table or the feast and the party, thinking about there's been a bunch of people that aren't here anymore, and this is the conversation at 2 a.m. Who's showing up? It's the people who've experienced him. They're out in the fields. There's dirt under their fingernails. They're saying, "Did you hear it too?"
Yeah.
Right? The banging drums and the trumpets aren't playing anymore, and everything is quiet. There's a pursuit, and there's something that's happening on the 27th that's different than on the 26th and 25th.
Yeah. To your question, Jenny, it's like, give an example of surprise. My brain's still been turning, and I don't think there's any one of us who, leading up to however we came to know Jesus, I think I can guess that I don't think any of us or anyone listening knew in our mind is like, okay, there's gonna be a day where the bigger picture of reality gets revealed, and I'm anticipating a savior to show up, and I'm just waiting for that to happen. But in each of our lives, someone told us, just like the shepherds, like there was a day and then someone told them. Like we didn't just find out on our own. God saw the shepherds and he wanted them to know. And so he told them. God saw us and he wanted us to know. And so he told us. And so maybe that's a little bit of the reflection too, of like going back to just like, how did God tell it to you? Because you didn't just happen upon it. You didn't figure it out on your own. Like there was something that revealed it that didn't come from like your own, I don't know.
Yeah. I love it. And I think there's a continual journey of surprise. There's a continual journey of experiencing the surprises of the kingdom of God. That I'm sure if you're trying to see it, if you're in the hills of Bethlehem, you're going to see it. You know, poetically speaking.
And I think, sometimes the problem is like we become so familiar with something when we stop looking at it closely and when we stop bringing our heart to the table, that we can approach a season like Christmas and go, oh yeah, I know what this is about. Yeah, this is what we're going to do. Yeah. But like, I think about like my parenting journey with my kids who, as they're getting older, right? As their parent, it's like, oh yeah, like I know my kids, like I understand them. But when I show up and when I see them and when I listen and pursue and I am open, I am surprised every stinking day at who these kids are becoming. And so even though they're very familiar to me, even though I know them, like I continue to be surprised. And I think the same thing happens in the Christmas season, right? Because as we continue to show up, as we continue to look and to be open and to just experience everything that is here, like I don't think we could live a long enough life to where we would be surprised by everything Christmas has to offer us.
That's good.
This is why every year, every new Christmas season, there is something new to surprise us, something new that Jesus wants to show us. And so that's like my heart stepping into today and into the rest of this season. It's like, I want to be surprised again.
Okay, I got a picture and a feeling, and it's going to sound kind of childish, but it kind of brought up this like, oh my gosh, getting older and being a parent in Christmas, the job that you have, it feels kind of like I have to do this for my family, and I'm excited to do it. It's like a gift. And there comes this like feeling every Christmas that I'm like, I want my parents to give childish gifts to me again. Oh, and there's kind of this feeling of Christmas morning that I feel a desire. But of course, I already know every gift because I bought them all, and they're all for my kids. I'm hoping there's something under the tree for me. Okay, there's a feeling there, and I'm hoping there's a surprise for me. But then December 26th comes and there's not, and it's just I fabricated the Christmas morning experience for my kids. I think this topic of surprise and being surprised, I'm the older I get, I just forget it because it's not for me. I want to bring up this concept of, is it for us? Is it something to ask God for? Of God, today, surprise me. I want to be surprised by something you have for me. Show me something you have never showed me before. Speak to me and say something you've never spoke to me.
Yeah.
I think what you're getting at, and this sounds counterintuitive, or it's the opposite, but preparing yourself for surprise.
Yeah.
Which sounds crazy, right? Like, but I think I'm going to go back to the slowing down and allowing yourself to be surprised.
It's the holding on to Christmas until it blesses me. But both of us, or typically, Christmas is dead and buried before the 26th even
Don't
happens.
put your tree away.
And we're here on the 27th.
Yeah.
Like it's already been in the grave for 24 hours.
But it's like that idea. It's the expecting surprises. It's the pursuit of, tell me the thing you have for me.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not letting go until you give it to me.
Yeah. I don't know. There's something really beautiful and compelling there.
Well, I feel like that would be a really good practice for just all of us. I know we usually like to offer our own practices, but man, for being a people who typically aren't in a position where we allow ourselves to be surprised, maybe all of us just say, hey, God, surprise us today.
Yeah, I love it. So happy December 27th, and it's an honor to be a part of this together.